We were interested in a, not a huge wedding, a smaller wedding where we could, I guess one of the benefits about getting married a little bit later is that you see everyone else get married and realize that I want that and I don't want that. And so I think a slightly smaller wedding, meaning, not 200 people, 100 people or less in the scheme of weddings, was sort of what we were looking for. And also just something, we've lived in New York a long time, something that felt very New York-y. Dan grew up in Pennsylvania, I went to school in the Midwest, something where, our friends would come and see New York as New York. So we looked at, I think, only one other place, actually. Three other places. Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, I don't even remember what they were. So, but we came here, and one, it's a great neighborhood. It's a very New York feel. You're right by the river, which we also live on the river on the Upper West Side. So it's nice to be by the river. It's nice to be in the village, and something about, I think, the open brick and the hardwood floors just screams New York. So I think it had a good feel that way in terms of just a general look. Right?
There's also, I think that the passion that you felt from Dan Falick and Jim Weitzman for their space and for how they do a wedding, just to us felt right. We want a slightly non-traditional wedding, and we knew that one, they wouldn't let us screw it up, but two, that they cared so much about the space and about they had just expanded it, and he couldn't wait to show us what they had done and what they're still working on. That to us, we knew he wouldn't skimp on small details, and he wouldn't just sort of treat us like a transaction waiting to get completed. That to him, it was something that was important. In fact, a few times, we'd bring up ideas of what we wanted to do, and they'd say, it's a great idea, but I'm just wondering if, you can tell in his eyes, he's saying, if that's smart, and we love that, because then we could be creative and have somebody else say, no, it might be smarter if you did it this way or that way. And so from the beginning, I think we felt that feeling from the staff and the management here that they cared enough about not just the space, but about us and what we wanted, that it just felt right.
Yeah, I think we're generally, we wanted something simple, but yet you also want something classy and that represents you. So it's sort of it's a difficult balance. And I'm not sure either of us has the fashion sense to pull it off. So I really felt as soon as I met Dan and Jim that we could sort of say, all right, maybe we'll do this or maybe we'll do that, and they'll keep it classy without us having to worry about whether or not I suspect some of our ideas were pretty tacky, and so they did a really nice job of taking us and making it into something beautiful. One very helpful thing was to look at their portfolio of pictures. They've done some amazing things with this space. So again, there's maybe not the most creative person in the world to be able to look at something like that and say, I like this and I don't like that. We were able to pick up certain pictures. There was a picture of a ceremony that had taken place, I think, where everyone was holding candles in a circle, and the priest and the couple were in the middle. And we thought that was kind of cool. We didn't know how that fit with us and the number of people and stuff, but we talked about that with Dan and Jim, and it was, they came up with a great. It felt our ceremony felt very communal. So they took our reaction to pictures and said, okay, so we see what you're interested in, and so they were able to make that and not do the same thing that the other person had done, because it didn't necessarily make sense for us or our group of people, but to recognize what it is we got excited about, and then make that into a real thing. And so we had a ceremony in the, I guess the West Room it is, and it was really just a very nice sort of community of people there, of our family and friends. Jim was amazing. Jim was, I think we were pretty not as low-key as we were about the wedding, and I think our philosophy generally was, if something was about to cause us stress in the planning, then that thing got cut. If the dance, whatever, the something, like whatever. If it's starting to like cause me agita, I don't have the time or patience. So it was, there wasn't much stress, I think, because these guys were so great. There wasn't much stress in planning the wedding. But of course, there's the day of, and there are some jitters, right? Especially because I think we forgot the
license.
The marriage license, right?
That's too bad.
So that was too bad. The one thing we had to remember, the only thing we had to remember in the whole day. So there, so it's stressful just because there's a lot of attention on you and all that kind of stuff. And so Jim was here, just managing everything, managing us, telling we knew we didn't have to think at all about where we had to be, where we had to go. He just did it and very subtly. He did everything. The band was a little loud. He took care of that very subtly. Everything he did was, I guess I didn't even pay attention because I knew it would be fine because he was there.
Right.
I didn't feel any stress. Once the curtains opened and I walked out, I didn't feel any stress whatsoever. He took care of us and he took care of our people. We have some friends who were vegetarian and it wasn't a totally vegetarian menu, and so he guided people in the right direction. He took care of, do you need a drink here? Do you need that? I mean, he was great. He's a rock, you just don't eat, but you don't realize it, I mean, he wasn't in our face asking, do we need anything? He just took care of things.
Everybody was great. Everybody was, really, really nice, very thoughtful and attentive, and it was really, it was perfect. And just to go back to Jim for a second, the nice thing to say about Jim is, he's still a pretty close friend to this day. I mean, we still get together with him every few weeks and have dinner and, all that. So, working with him was phenomenal. And Dan's phenomenal, and the whole staff was just great. And a number of people at our wedding, to this day keep saying to us how great everybody was. And even somebody, we had a friend who was 9 months pregnant, and I think planted herself by the door to the kitchen, kept scarfing the food as it came out. And even she said, they're so nice. I knew they were totally blocking me at some point to get the food to other people, but they did it so well.
Yeah. Really, one of the comments from people who went to our wedding was that the staff was phenomenal. That, if they recognized, we did the stand-up dinner, which we can talk about, which was great. But if the staff recognized that someone liked a certain drink or a certain food, or someone was vegetarian or whatever it was, the staff would just take care of them and keep bringing them what they wanted, what they needed. So it was, again, the kind of thing where you almost didn't notice the staff until they were doing something good. There are two reasons why we chose 91. 3. 1, the space is really great. 2, we trusted Dan with his ability to make what we wanted look classy and beautiful. But 3 was this idea of a stand-up dinner. This idea of a stand-up dinner was just amazing. I mean, and I'm sure that other people have described it, but that you have a 3-course meal that comes out in things that guests can hold, so you're not interrupting conversation or the flow of the party or anything. And I think guests from, young college student nephews and nieces to, my parents' friends loved the stand-up dinner. Just loved that you could. That 1, the food was excellent, and 2, that it was just 5 hours of party, and that it was something party, but celebration and conversation and all that kind of stuff. So I think that choice of that option of having the meal served that way was a huge plus, I think, for us in terms of choosing 91.
One of the things that was really cool on the food was that we picked a menu, and Dan sat down, a month later, looked at our menu and just like, oh, you guys did great choice, great. Let's just move this here, let's substitute that. And he made a couple of changes that really brought it together nicely, So, again, we knew that we could make changes, but he would help us and ensure that we didn't make stupid decisions.
So the one thing, I said earlier that we sort of cut out anything that felt stressful. One of those was a cake. And one thing, they had a picture on their website that was this cheesecake, meaning cake of cheese, not
like
Brooklyn's,
hard cheese,
like like brie, and that looked great. But anyway, so but I really thought, I don't really like cake, so I don't really feel like, why do I have to spend the money on a cake? And it was the one thing that Dan pushed back on a little. He's like, look, people do love a cake, I mean, so he had a compromise of which I think went really nicely with the stand-up dinner where everything was passed like this. It was cupcakes, and just a stack of them that looked beautiful, that was set up really nicely, that looked like a beautiful wedding cake, but it was cupcakes, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant. It fit us, and I felt like it fit the wedding and that sort of thing.